discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we even set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them, they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Baratans too, cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we even set up. The people fed up. Fed up on the dirty water, low pressure, want scream and tell somebody. Imagine 1500 US and they're telling me super salary. I done fed up on the unemployment racism and the lie they say one Guyana. Cause when you look with the oil money going, circulate with one set of banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we even set up. The people fed up.
A pleasant good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Over to You, a show for the people, by the people. Hey, man, the year has really moved forward quite quickly. Huh? We're already at November 23rd, 2024. So the year of 2024 is winding down. I will waste no time this evening because we do have a guest with us. So why don't I just go ahead and introduce the Honorable Member of Parliament, hardworking, young Minister, Shadow Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Viceroy Jordan. Mr. Jordan, welcome to Over to You. How are you doing, sir?
Well, good evening, Wayne. Good evening to your listening and viewing audience. I'm doing quite well, and thank you for having me here tonight on your program. I believe it is my first time here, so I'm very much happy.
Yes, it is your debut program here on Over to You, and we welcome you, myself, and the viewing audience with open arms. Okay, welcome to the program. Welcome to the program. Well, I'm not gonna waste too much time. I'm gonna just start digging into the issues. Recently, I have seen that it has come to my attention that the voters list is showing about 715,000 Guyanese adults. I find that very, very strange. I would like to get your take on that.
Well, if I may, it is 718 as
okay.
The last statement amount coming out of GCOM from their press statement that they recently had. And 718 voters, well, adult voters being 18 years and older, it is quite alarming because we have a population of, at an average, 750,000 Guyanese. And it is quite clear from the Ministry of Education that they estimate that we have just about 250,000 children at average within school age. And this excludes, of course, those beneath that age, because, you know, our babies go to school from the nursery, 3-9 thereabout. And whenever census is being done, the population, it is documented or tabulated based per person. So once you're born, you're counted. You're counted as a citizen, resident rather, in the country. And for GCOM to arrive at this point, Wayne, to say to us that we have over 700,000 persons on our voters list, it is highly ridiculous to be even thought of ever being possible, because one would understand and remember from the last general and regional election that we had just about 400,000, 460,000, I think it was, thereabout, persons that actually voted. Stand corrected if it was less. And we know from that list then, which was about 600,000 persons on that list, we know for a fact that the list was bloated then. And coming to this point, it tells us that it is even further bloated. Now, what Guyanese must understand is that the list consists of persons who are dead. And when we speak about persons who are dead, it is not only those who would have died in Guyana. It is persons who would have died both abroad and at home. And abroad means anywhere outside of Guyana. Because we do not have a mechanism or some sort of methodology that we can work with to have deaths that are recorded abroad to be recorded in Guyana and taken off of the voters list. There's none. So GCOM cannot come to us and provide any sort of justification or solution to that. So Guyanese must take that very, very serious first off the bat. Apart from those overseas, and we know that Guyanese registered on the list would have died in the thousands and abroad. Now, those locally, and I coming from the country, I can tell you for a fact that when some persons died, especially the older folks, that the PPP's plan and plot, the way they maneuver politically, is that they advise the residents, the families, not to register the death in the new ID card or with the new ID card. And so the death, and this is, I'm speaking from evidence, we have seen this. The death is oftentimes registered with the old ID card. And so you find that when the death is registered with an old ID card, when it goes to GCOM, GCOM cannot flag or GCOM cannot pick up that death. And let us say if we have 100 of that per region, it goes across a country having 10 regions, having 1,000 deaths, and cannot be not registered the right way, and so it cannot go to GCOM and for GCOM to properly flag and remove that name. Now let us let us just say,
Vince,
yes,
right, before you go a bit deeper, I do have a question to pose to you. When we speak of the deceased, how many years back you think we have to go when we're talking about people who are deceased being on that voters list? Is it 10 years? Is it 15 years of dead people? You know, what do you estimate?
Well, I would say, from my estimation and understanding and being around GCOM's work, both in claims and objection and field work, I would say we need to go as far as 30 to 40 years back. And I'll tell you why. And this again is evidence. In my own community, and we have oftentimes referenced this at other occasions and other meetings and so on. The former Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Nigel Damlal, his sister today is still on the voters list, having died over 10 years. You understand me? That is just one example. When we go to another constituency, another area in Region 5, there is a particular relative of the very minister, and I'm singling it out because we would have done our work with regards to this. And the very minister, a very old member of the family, would have died, but many years ago. And I'm telling you, the name is still on the voters list, having died over 2 decades ago. And so when you look at that, you can come to the conclusion that GCOM has not effectively done what it is supposed to do as a body to remove names of the dead from the list. And I was going to make the point, and this comes in why I say effectively, because we find that there are certain persons, and I am confident enough to say that GCOM having the responsibility of removing the names and would be required to receive a list from GRO and other agencies, of whom one we know the minister, one Ejil brother is heading, and we know the incompetent commissioner of police, and the others at the Guyana, the Georgetown Public Hospital, who would give these information. I recognized recently they said, I think it's the chief medical officer, somebody within that regard. But we cannot and will not ever believe that Clifton Hickins, acting commissioner, would give from the Guyana Police Force anything that is credible to GCOM. We also do not believe that the GRO would do the same. And I'll tell you why. Again, I like to bring practical examples. My relative died in 2021. 3 months into claims and objection thereafter, her name was removed from the list. Of course, they knew that it was my aunt. Her name was removed. And we still have persons in the very street that she was living, in the very area, carrying the same, on the same list, who would have died, and their names are still on the list. I would have objected in person, and GCOM at the claims and objection period in 2022, GCOM, having received my objection, having visited, having been told by the family members that this person is no longer living there, the person would have been deceased for so many years, and the name is still on the list. And so I don't have any confidence in GCOM when it comes to removing these names. And apart from the dead, we have a number of Guyanese who would have been registered on this list, taking it to 718,000, and living abroad for many, many years. And we are quite sure and certain in many cases that some have not returned to Guyana over decades. We know for sure that they would have become citizens of other countries. We know that for sure that some don't even have interest in Guyana's politics any longer because they're not returning. And it is with that we say to GCOM that we must, one, have biometrics. We must, two, have a clean voters list, having been compiled after a series of house registration, and something that we can be assured that when we utilize the list for general and regional elections, we will, one, have credible results, and we will have an election that is free and fair. And GCOM seems hell-bent, being led by Claudet Singh, not to go in that direction. And the list will remain in that position once they do not take the necessary actions.
Okay, so Vince Roy, here is my thing. When it comes to the influx of Venezuelans that would have breached the borders and come into Guyana, do you believe that these people have been given, Guyanese ID cards and, is on the current voters list that, shows 718,000 adults in Guyana ready to vote in 2025? And also, the 500 Bangladeshi nurses that were expected into Guyana. I don't know if that has occurred as yet or not. I don't know if you have any info on that, if they would have arrived already, and if they would have been given Guyanese identifications also.
Well, with regards to the Venezuelan, I can say this much, that yes, they are being registered. And the PPP would have changed the laws to have persons who do not have birth certificates. And if you know, the birth certificate stands as a source document that gives you or qualifies you for registration at GCOM. And so today, the law, which in years back would have required you to have immunization cards, school records, some records showing that you would have not only been born here, but you would have received medical services, you would have been to school, and that would have qualified you that, look, this is a Guyanese by birth. We're going to now be able to give him or her a birth certificate based on the records that we have. Today, any Tom, Dick, Harry, and Jane that is sworn as a justice of peace, being PPP loyalists, they can write and swear that this person would have lived in Guyana, and they would have born rather, and they are entitled for birth certificate. The law being changed is now giving Venezuelans, Brazilians, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, you name them as they come, the right based on the law now that the PPP changed just about a year and a half, 2 years ago in the National Assembly, just to suit and prepare themselves. As a matter of fact, it was the birth of election rigging by law. And so they have allowed their justice of peace and all those in different communities. And if you know that only PPP associates and affiliates would receive instruments of justice of peace and commission of votes. And so they have the majority across the country. And when you go to the hinterland, in particular where the Venezuelans come, they will give them at the slightest thing that they turn up, not knowing anything about Guyana, not even being able to speak English language. And they recommend, and they go to GRO, they have a birth certificate, they turn up at GCOM, they then get registered, and they're placed on the list. And without a doubt, I can say that there are a number of Venezuelans who have been registered. There are a number of Bangladeshi, Pakistani, wherever they come from. I came on a flight just under a year ago. When I came on the flight, I saw the officer at the airport, one officer, coming to give these people what you would call preferential treatment and taking them to the front of the line. None of them couldn't speak English. And as he was taking them to the front of the line, myself and another member of parliament, we came on the same flight. I proceeded to the front of the line. And I'm telling you, they came in large numbers. And so I questioned, how can these non-nationals be given preferential treatment in front of two members of parliament standing here? And so we proceeded to the front. And I said it is further evident that the PPP is bringing them into Guyana in large numbers. And they have persons at the airport waiting to deal with them, to clear them, to pick them up. And that is what is going on. I went to the New Amsterdam hospital and I was surprised that, you have these Cuban doctors and so on who would not be speaking English. But we have a number of nurses who are not English speaking, be it that they come from Cuba, be it that they come, but they are not Guyanese. And they are nurses working in the system, and that they have been there. They're even given what you call it, resident. They're given place to live at the hostel right across the road. These are facts, and the government is bringing them in, and they're allowing them to be registered. And just 1 minute as I close on this point, if you follow what GCOM has been doing over the years, and I don't believe that no legal officer should be blamed, or the foolish response of the deputy, I think it was, chief elections officer, by saying that they now know the law has always said that members of the Commonwealth or persons coming from Commonwealth countries living in Guyana, that they must be domiciled and resident in Guyana. and it must precede a year before that date that they choose to be registered. And we know for a fact that GCOM has not been doing that. And now they're saying that there are a number of persons who they have on file that have not fully met the criteria as one, being domiciled and resident in Guyana, having intentions of living and being residents of Guyana. And they have done that not only with Venezuelans, they have done it with other nationals.
Very, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Mr. Jordan, when I look at how the PPP is operating and who is getting an opportunity to come into Guyana and who is not getting an opportunity to come into Guyana, it is sometimes my belief that the PPP, is really, really trying very hard to gain that ethnic supremacy in Guyana. And in doing so, they are trying to reduce the Guyanese of African descent basically to nothing. I want to know your take on that, your insight,
Well, I think it is a little deeper than that. While you're correct, I am saying, and I've been saying since 2020, or prior to 2020 rather, before the last general and regional elections, that Guyanese of East Indian descent, our Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters, they have left the shores in large numbers, large proportion. And it is evident, one who often, I frequent Indo-Guyanese communities, not only to do political work, but because I have my friends there. Because I have some who are families there. And I can tell you that several houses in some of the communities, they are locked up. You go to the quarantine and you will see what I'm talking about. You check right here in Region 5, where I'm from, in places that are predominant Indo-Guyanese communities. They are locked. There are many houses that are locked up. When you find out from neighbors and friends, they say, Auntie gone to the States long. That apart, there are Guyanese of our Indo-Guyanese and brothers and sisters who have come to the realization that the People's Progressive Party Civic is bad for Guyana. And so because they're bad for Guyana, they have made an open decision that they will not vote for the PPP, or two, they will vote for the coalition. The ones who would have decided they're not going to vote for them, they're simply saying to them, we're going to stay home. And there are others who are bold enough to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to face reality and vote for the coalition. So they're bringing persons now, and Wayne, you would hear me out, who do not know the culture, who do not know the practice, who do not know about the real issues, the policies, the crises that we are really facing in Guyana, because those Venezuelans who might not have the knowledge of the PPP's corruption, of the PPP's victimization, discrimination, and racism over the years, they will come and they will say, oh, this is the government, and they brought us, we will vote for them. And so they bring these nationals from abroad, overseas, not having the knowledge of the true nature of the beast being the PPP in government. And so they believe that they are not having the knowledge that they will be easily maneuvered and influenced, and they can direct their show and have them vote for them. But I got news for them, that even to some of the Venezuelans that they would have brought, that they are working, they are mixing, and they are mingling with Guyanese, and Guyanese of both East Indian, African, even Chinese, and mixed races, and they're learning. They're on social media even more than we are. You would be surprised to know that they have the apps that are converting some of these social media programs, and they're listening, and they understand the beast that the PPP is. They understand the wickedness that the PPP are doing. They understand the discrimination They understand that the monies from our oil and gas sector, it is not reaching the ordinary man. They see and work with the ordinary man on a daily basis and understand their plight. And so they know that PPP is no good. And so I say to the PPP also that even the strategy to bring them in is not working and will not work, because we will continue to educate, we will continue to speak out, and they themselves will have an opportunity to make the evaluation between the coalition and the People's Progressive Party.
Well said. Well, very well said, Mr. Jordan. So we're gonna have some issues, I would figure, heading into the 2025 elections. And you know, I'm quite disappointed, because after the 2020 elections, you know, they leave the people of Guyana at each other's throat, right? Because of all the rigging and all the inconsistencies that the 2020 elections would have had. I would have thought that GCOM, with Claudet Singh, the chairperson, would have quickly pivoted into getting a clean voters list, into, you know, getting GCOM up and running the way it needs to be, always ready, elections ready. But for us to be at what, almost December 2024, and we are now talking about biometrics, and we are still talking about cleaning the list, it just shows that these bodies, these autonomous bodies, whether it is GCOM, whether it's the Guyana Police Force, whomever it is, they just don't execute on behalf of the Guyanese people. And I'm going to give you a little quote from Miss Claudet Singh that I would have gotten here from Travis Chase. And it says, after being consistently accused of voting with the government-appointed members of the Guyana Elections Commission, the opposition and other stakeholders would have called for Claudet Singh to retire.
Resign.
Right? Yes.
Resign.
Yes. Yes, to resign. Claudet Singh, in response, now, we have not heard from this woman. Since 2020 elections, you have not really gotten any press conferences out of her. And that's quite disappointing after the performance in 2020. She should be giving the Guyanese people either a semi-annual press conference or a quarterly press conference to give them an update as to where the Guyana Election Commission stands, right? Remember, we have Keith Lowenfield and Roxanne Myers and all of these people being paraded back and forth in court for nothing. For nothing. Because when you look at this body right now, this quote-unquote supposedly autonomous body, GCOM, you know, you see a body that is not operating favorable to the people of Guyana. They're operating favorable to the PPPC, right? And they are supposed to be independent. Now, Vincent, I want your take on what the chairperson for GCOM would have had to say. She said, look, and I quote her, I don't know about resigning. I mean, when I want to resign, I will resign. I don't think that that's a good statement, you know, because she has just, look, I beg to differ that the opposition is making, you know, proposals. The proposals that they are making is so out of left field that she cannot vote with them not once. Every time she votes with the PPPC. I would like your take on that, chairperson, you know, and the way she votes. And if you think that Claudet Singh should still be there as the GCOM chairperson, is she capable of executing her duties as chairperson with an unbiased, you know, perspective?
Well, I would put it this way. And let me answer the question whether I think off the bat, Claudet Singh should not and must not remain as GCOM chair. She has been compromised, and I think the best thing that she should do before being further compromised and bringing further embarrassment and tarnishing her good career as a woman coming from the bench and being part of our judiciary is to resign and go. every action of Claudet Singh at the Guyana Elections Commission from since 2020 to now has shown that she is prepared to not have free and fair elections in Guyana, and that she is complicit with the People's Progressive Party Civic. Her actions demonstrate such that she's complicit in being or fueling the rigging machine to ensure that the elections go in the favor of the People's Progressive Party Civic. And so I do not believe that she should be at GCOM not one day further than today. But with her saying that she would resign when she feels like resigning is a matter for Guyanese, not only the political parties, but a matter for Guyanese to take very serious and understand that here is a woman, after demonstrating over the years 47 boxes without any statutory documentations. And she could not have done an investigation. As a matter of fact, she voted against an investigation being properly conducted into that whole saga, I would put it. A woman who told, after saying to put the hold the tabulation, don't include these votes, come back to say, include and let's proceed. This very woman, to date, took 3.5 years, well now 4 years we have to say, and is saying to the Guyanese people in a press conference just a day ago that biometrics is now being discussed. We are now looking at it when you're just about 9 months away from an election. Claudet Singh is the very woman who sat and presided over everything that happened at the 2020 general and regional elections, having recommendations from the OAS, the Carter Center, you name it, all the agencies and bodies that came as observers to the 2020 elections, all of them from the US, the EU, and you name them. She received, as chairman of GCOM, I think it was about 27 or 30 recommendations that should be made possible or put into operation before the next general and regional elections, which was not limited to biometrics and a clean voters list. And Claudet Singh to date is saying that it is because of some constitutional reform they have not implemented not even one, if I got her right. They have not done anything. And now they're coming to the nation after being pressed, Wayne, by the social media generally and the media houses, that they must come forward with a Hiram Scare haphazard press conference, not being fully prepared. You could see from the body language, you could see you could know from the answers that were given that they were not even prepared. The one deputy CEO, well, I believe now it confirms the rumors that have been spreading that he actually is the CEO and Vishnu is really a rubber stamp. I believe it has been confirmed from the press conference that Anil Giddens is really the CEO of GCOM, and that Claudet Singh has a special favor, as it is alleged, a special favor for Anil over that of Vishnu Prasad. And that is what is being said. Insiders from the People's Progressive Party and the Guyana Election Commission are fearful that there will be a clash over the two when it comes to the fighting for the position, who really is the CEO. But coming back to Claudet Singh, because her actions would have shown over time that she is complicit, because her actions would have shown over time that she has no real interest in ensuring that we have free, fair, and credible elections, she must resign now. Claudet Singh must go. And I call upon Guyanese to join the effort, join the force and the fight for us to demand that Claudet Singh must go. It is not a political party fight. It is not a members of parliament and the leader of opposition fight. It is a fight for all Guyanese to have or to see a democratic process being rolled out through our general and regional elections. And in order for us to have free, fair, and credible elections, Claudet Singh must not be at the helm of the Guyana Elections Commission.
Well said. In order for us to have free and fair elections, Claudet Singh must go. Okay. Hey, that matches what the people are saying. In order for Guyana to progress, the PPP must
You must go.
exit. So yes, well said, Mr. Jordan. Well said. I want to pivot, and actually, before I pivot over to agriculture, I just want to ask you this one question. What is the PNC as a party doing on the ground presently to, you know, put out voter education to the people, to sensitize the people, as to what is going to be coming up, in 2025, with the elections set to be in 2025? How are you guys sensitizing and preparing Guyanese for the next general and regional elections?
Well, one of the things I can tell you that we are doing continuously, and you would notice, and I can speak here from myself also as a party, we have been engaging generally Guyanese, and especially those in our base, so to speak, to get registered. That is the first thing. You must ensure that you are registered. You must ensure that you're a holder of a national identification card. Further to being registered, we are encouraging Guyanese that they must ensure that their place of where they normally vote, or where they're supposed to vote, it matches with where they're residing. Because if you're residing in Georgetown, and you usually vote in region number 6, or you would have moved for some reason, and you no longer reside in region 6, we encourage them to be transferred, because GCOM provides for this during continuous registration and during periods of claims and objection. You can go in and you can say to GCOM, look, I am no longer within this area, and I need to have my address change. I need to have my name change for some reason, be that I would have gotten married, or for some other reason. And so we encourage our supporters to do that. I can tell you, when I'm on the ground, when we're in the fields, one of the notebooks that we take along is that we ensure that persons who are 18 years and older, that they get registered. We place special emphasis on those, but we still ensure that all those who are 14 years, that they fall in another category, that they too go and be registered, so that it will be a smooth and easy transition when they would have acquired the age of 18, and be able to move over from the NRR onto the official list of electors. And so we do it in more or less a three-prong approach. We educate them in terms of being registered, having a national identification card, and being registered, knowing the place that you vote, that you are close to that location. And the other part of it is that we ensure that we speak to our constituents. We let them know that you vote, and you vote once in the general election, you vote once at the regional level. These are things that we keep saying to our supporters, so that they do not miss it. Because sometimes during campaigns, I can tell you, people get so excited that some people turn up at rallies and they don't have identification card, but they turn up at the rally, and they're cheering on. Yes, APNU, PNC, go. But then you ask them afterwards, when are you going to vote? Oh, I didn't remember I had to register. And so it is very important, and we've been doing that. We have been doing that in constituencies across the country. And I know for a fact, as a party, we will intensify that, in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead of us.
Well said, Mr. Jordan. And that's good to know that you guys are on the ground sensitizing Guyanese, because there's so many young people, that I would have engaged, not of recent, I must say, sorry, not of recent, but within the last 8 months, 9 months, that didn't have their identifications as yet, and I've spoken to some of them recently, and a lot of people have went out there and have gotten their IDs. I understand that the GCOM offices across the country was overwhelmed with people going in to get their identifications. So that's a very, very good thing to hear. So Vince, right, when you look at Guyana from a holistic perspective, just pivoting here a bit, we see that around 68% of our children, young children, is facing some measure of poverty. Okay, and I know that one of the things in eliminating poverty would have to be agriculture, would have to be, because a lot of times it starts with people getting a meal, and these type of things, right? And I know farming has been a very, very important part of Guyanese culture over the years, starting way back when with our ancestors, all the way to now. When you look, and I know Region 5 that, you're the MP in Region 5. I know that's more so a farming community, right? It's not a farming region. I know Region 6 is also
it's an
farming.
agricultural region. It's
agriculture, right? We have in Linden also. When you look across the agriculture spectrum in Guyana, what are you seeing right now?
Well, let me just piggyback on the first part of your statement before I get into that. I think it was the World Health, not World Health, World Bank, and another organization, I can't recall at hand, last year that said Guyana, and in 2022, I think they did, stands at a poverty rate in Guyana stands at, one said about 47 and one said 51% of Guyana or Guyanese are living in poverty. And so that statement that you made, it is very much important and factual that a large portion of Guyanese are still living in poverty. And when I look at the agricultural sector being managed by the People's Progressive Party, CIVI, it doesn't give Guyanese, particularly those in agricultural regions as we know it, or as it were, the opportunity. They don't give them the opportunity to really live or come out to their true potential. It doesn't give young Guyanese the opportunity to really experience how you can go about being an agriculturist without having to say that I'm a farmer with a long boots, with a fork, and having mud on my skin. It doesn't speak to Guyanese in a way that they can understand in agriculture that entrepreneurship also goes hand in hand. It doesn't allow Guyanese who are young, even those within the middle age, and particularly our females, to understand that they can be engaged in agriculture and they can develop a business. And agriculture is being used presently in this government as a political tool, not a tool to ensure that we bring poverty to a decline, not a tool to ensure that we can bring our unemployment rate to one that, or low our unemployment rate. They don't use it as a tool to ensure food security and food availability. They don't use it as a tool to ensure that every region somehow gets to understand and realize that agriculture should be their main focus. What the PPP is doing is just putting up a farm or giving out some tools or looking at some hydroponic farming in one region where their stronghold is, and handing out the contract to somebody to build the sheds and to bring in the equipment. And it is completely politicized and not being properly managed. You see that there's not sufficient research. Well, I shouldn't say sufficient. I don't know if at all there's any proper research, and well, you can't even go to development if there's no research. But we need research and development. We need to understand what are our main crops needed in certain sectors or regions. We need to understand what are the main animals that should be reared in certain areas. We need to understand when it is and where it is necessary for dairy production. It is absolutely necessary that we study and understand. And so education is lacking in agriculture. It is heavily politicized, and I don't see agriculture as a broad area that the government really champions, except for the fact that they come and say that we're going to achieve food security by 2030. But where is the plan? Where is the real action? When we look at the markets, we see prices for local commodities, vegetables. We see boro, we see pumpkin, all these things selling at prices that are over the roof, that our ordinary Guyanese cannot go to the market and purchase at a reasonable price. We see that it is even in shortage. We understand and we recognize that there is a new development in Guyana, and that oil and gas caters for an influx of expats and other persons who will come to work in the sector who will just be passing through Guyana. And so that by itself tells us that we need to be producing more than we were producing in 2014 or in 2015, where we just discovered oil. And so the PPP has not really taken that into consideration. And so I don't see agriculture as a thriving, developing sector, but rather as one that the PPP uses as a political tool, and it just speaks on it at the top of the surface. That is how I see it, Mr. Caesar.
And the PPP has on their mandate to achieve food security by 2030. Well, you know something, Vince Ryan, I totally disagree with that, because why do we need to achieve food security? Why do we need until 2030 when we're dealing with less than 1 million people? We should not need that much time, you know, when we have oil and we have all these different things. It just goes back to show you that, like you said, the sectors are poorly managed, and Gaisuko is one of them. That you just if you want to elaborate on Gaisuko, you could take 2 minutes and give us a little snapshot of what you think of Gaisuko, please.
Gaisuko is whenever I speak about Gaisuko, it sometimes it even makes me emotional, for the fact that I am a proud graduate of the Gaisuko Training Center in Port Moran. It has given me, it was my first level of tertiary education. I graduated from the Gaisuko Training Center in 2010 after studying for 4 years in an area of agriculture, mechanics, and automotives. It is that foundation that has propelled me to go on to the University of Guyana and other areas of study. But coming back to Gaisuko as it is, Gaisuko is not being properly managed. Bottom line, the government continues to pump billions of dollars, to date over $35 billion into Gaisuko. At an average, we were putting $4 billion just to ensure that we maintain Gaisuko when the coalition was in government. $4 billion per annum, until we brought it down. I think at one point we were giving them just about $1. But the fact of the matter here is the PPP come in less than 5 years, and they would have already given Gaisuko almost $40 billion. And when you check the annual reports of Gaisuko 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, you will see that Gaisuko would have lost over $20 billion. That is, you give in 40 billion, you lose 20 billion, and the corporation is at a point where it is producing right now, Wayne, at an average just about 50,000 metric tons of sugar per year. When the coalition took Gaisuko, we managed to what we call right size, and brought Gaisuko to a level that we were averaging just over 100,000 metric tons of sugar per year. Annually, we produced that up until the PPP came into office. The records are there to show that our last year we were just about 90-something thousand metric tons. Of course, we know the transition with the election and all the COVID-19 and all of that occurred within that period. But what is even damning at this point, and the PPP has no shame, that Gaisuko produced in the first half, well, I shouldn't say the first half, coming to November of this year, Gaisuku couldn't produce 40% of the sugar that it is expected to produce. The minister said in his speech boldly that they will produce 100,000 metric tons of sugar this year. I stood up in the national and said, "What? 100,000?" No, I had to, because I know that
Well,
that is not the reality under the PPP. Mismanagement, it cannot happen. And when he said that, he said, "Yes, I'm going to prove it." And today, they have not reached 50,000 metric tons. And this is almost the end of the crop for the year. And we're at just about 2-3 weeks into well, not sorry, a week into the last month of the year, because today's the 23rd. So we're just about a week into the last month of the year, and the crop will end, and they have not yet produced 50% of the target. That is telling us that Gaisuko is not only being mismanaged, but that the government does not have a proper policy or proper policies, and that the board of Gaisuko should be sacked. Well, now we know that they have a new CEO, and I don't want to rush to say that he is incompetent, but I know from his actions thus far, he has not demonstrated any level of competence in turning around Gaisuko.
oh,
Because
this guy,
the
this
other
guy,
one that has gone to right, this guy Paul Chung,
he's a
these
career,
people,
he's a career failure. So I don't see anything positive moving forward for Gaisuko. And my take on
exactly.
Gaisuko is that it is being used as a voting mechanism for the PPPC to
Oh yes,
garner votes. I think Gaisuko is very, very political, and we would never see nothing, positive out of Gaisuko. We would never see. They'll just keep putting the money into Gaisuko.
correct. Once it is the PPP in management.
Yes, and well said, well said, um, Mr. Jordan. Now, final question. This. Yes, sorry about that. It seems as if we're having some connection issues here.
Yes, yes.
My final question to you, Vince Roy. After the 2020 elections, while we were in the waiting period, Barry Jagdeo would have said, unless the PPP is installed, and I quote, Guyana will be ungovernable. Now, with the positions that the PPPC would have taken when it comes to preparing for this 2025 elections, right? Where you have the Venezuelans coming in, you have Bangladeshi coming in, they're all getting Guyanese identifications and are prepared to vote as Guyanese come 2025. I'm just saying this. If the election does not fall, where I believe it should, as a win for the opposition, you being one of, the members of the opposition, or let's take you out of just being a member, you being the leader of the opposition, what would you do in that case?
Well, I would anticipate, or rather to anticipate that it goes the other way, and that we succeed doing everything that is necessary for us to be successful at the polls. But to imagine at this time, or to take my mind to a point of us not being successful at the next general and regional elections is, and to be in the seat of opposition leaders, the question would have been posed, and having to lead parliamentary opposition, then I believe Wayne, it will be a very difficult task. Um, Not only to be able to keep the level of vibrancy and the level of activism amongst our members of parliament and within the nation, being able to really have a voice and a force to be reckoned with, but it will be time for deep introspection and time for deep considerations of having not only a political party um, being the force to come up against the people's progressive party, but having a wide, and this, as I said, it is also what we are doing. I could say for myself, we're doing as a um, opposition at the moment, but having a wide cross section of Guyanese, not only Guyanese independent, but organizations to join forces so that we can unseat the People's Progressive Party Civic. And I say this to say that once we can do what I would have just said in having a broader coalition, so to speak, so to put it, there is nothing that would stop us from and education, of course, there is nothing that could stop us from unseating the People's Progressive Party Civic. And so, one, I would believe it will be time for serious consideration as a party, as in the direction that we should go thereafter, should that happen. And two, it would be absolutely necessary then for us to include the widest we can go as a political party, having arms, religious organizations, youth organizations, you name it, to be a part of a force, because then we would need all hands on deck, as we would need now also. But I do believe that Guyanese should be prepared, and Guyanese should have it in their minds that we must do everything in our power, not only from the political party level, but from them as individuals, as organizations that are supporters of the opposition. And when I say opposition here, I'm not speaking only for the People's National Congress, APNU. I'm saying the WPA, the Alliance for Change, the broad base, the broad coalition, our religious organizations that we know would have said to us, we are with you, but we don't want to be seen and heard, publicly, having regards for what the people would have said. We know what they can do. Youth organizations. And it is time that and they understand that they come on board and not have such an experience come to reality, because it will not be one where our sons, our daughters, and in general, the population of Guyana would be able to live freely. We see the level of discrimination, Wayne. We see the level of marginalization. We see the levels of corruption. We see poverty. We see crime. We see, and we can continue to name. Are we prepared to say that we want to see the next level of this? Are we prepared to say that we want to see what the PPP will do again, or do continue to do once they go back, and this time legitimately? So if we might want to put it that way, no. So we must be prepared, Wayne. And I say that I would put my efforts and my knowledge and my strength into preparing to defeat and to succeed in defeating the People's Progressive Party, rather than contemplating what will be my next move as an opposition should the PPP regain power. And so I want Guyanese to also have that mindset. Your question is one that is fair, because in life there are many challenges and things do happen, but we have to prepare to ensure that the end result must be that we defeat the People's Progressive Party Civic. And we know we can defeat them. We have been defeating the People's Progressive Party Civic for a number of elections. We can go back to 2011. We can go back to 2015. We can go back to 2020, and those are just the 3 most recent elections. And we can see when when they would have tried to steal the seat in 2011 to be a majority, and our Commissioner Vincent Alexander had to say to them that, look, this is the reality. We have the 1 seat majority, and the government is a minority government. In 2011, sorry, not 2011, the one prior, 2006 thereabout, when Samine sat on the seat of the coalition, one of the what you call it, seat in Linden that was not rightfully his. And so you go and you in Region 10, you see that the People's Progressive Party has been losing for a number of years. And my grandmother always said to me that and this is from since I before I started voting, that the People's Progressive Party did not and have not won the general and regional elections. And so I'm confident that they have not won elections over the year, and rightfully, yes, since 1997, they have not won elections. And so I believe that once we do the work, Wayne, we will be successful. And this is where I would want to make that call, that clarion call, not only to Guyanese, but to our own members of our political parties, our own members of the coalition, our own members of parliament, our own executive members, that we have a golden opportunity with the PPP doing everything to lose this election, that we must join hearts and hands together and ensure that what we do from now leading to the next 9 months, 11 months, whenever the elections are called, 6 months, that we defeat the PPP, because we have the opportunity. And I can tell you, I have been working in region number 5, and you know, let me come home to the People's National Congress. Just permit me. It all comes in with the question and what we're talking about. In this region, the regional executive of which I am the chairman for just over 6 years of the region number 5 PNCR, we have taken the conscious decision that we must knock on every house, regardless of community and ethnicity, before the next general and regional election, and we intend to do so, and we have started, and we have managed to go far thus with the time that we have been doing the work, and we will continue to do the work. And if all of us as executives, if all of us as members of parliament, if all of us as members of our political parties join in the same effort, there's nothing like the PPP defeating the coalition at the next general and regional elections.
Well said, Mr. Vince Roy Jordan. What positive words for the people of Guyana. Yes, you lift them up with a lot of positivity there in that statement. My question though was I really wanted to see, you know, what position you guys would have taken, you know, to the extent that the PPP goes to election and GCOM allow the PPP to go to elections with this same list. Now, your scrutineers really have to be on their game. You guys would have to vet those scrutineers, though they play an intricate role in how all of this plays out. You know, and I know Miss Carol Joseph is the leader of the scrutineers, and she will make sure, you know, that's a good thing. That's a plus for you guys right there. You know, but they're going to...
Yeah, my name is Jacinti Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by 1 vote, they're losing it by data.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su. My relationship?
license and everything. Don't make me. Where is the PS? Where is the PS? At the gate. He's at the gate because he came after 5:30. That's why he's at the gate. Because he came after 5:30. Who is the other technical staff in this ministry? You're the head.
All right. Welcome back, folks. Viceroy, in closing, can you just give the Guyanese people, some confidence, some empowerment as we prepare to close here?
All right. Well, one thing I wanted to say, when you ask about what I can see from the current state of the agriculture sector in Guyana, I wanted to also include that it is the coalition's intention, it is our intention. As a matter of fact, we have already looked at our policies, some things that must happen once we are in government. We will ensure that agriculture is properly coordinated in every single region. And when I say every region, I mean from regions 1, Barima Waini, to Linden, region 10, up to Mara, upper Borbis. And that in every region, there will be targeted investment, education, and training tailored to those regions, so that we can increase agricultural productivity. And by doing that, we will ensure that we have food availability, which would, of course, deal with food security immediately. We would also ensure that that level is sustained in every region, and that what we do in regions would be tailored to the needs of the region 1, and by far as possible to what are the capabilities of the region. We would also ensure that we develop within both the medium and large scale sector of businesses and agricultural farmers and port entrepreneurs, that they will have not only loans but grants that will meet their level of business, and that the government will invest in ensuring that we have startup programs, not in the way the PPP is doing it, but that it will be on an equitable level, and it will be against or for every race, class, sector, not in a way that the PPP is being biased and all of that in the distributions and the grants, and we see how they would give handouts and so on to people. But apart from that, we have also looked at ensuring that we set up mechanisms so that we have a structured research and development department, which will obviously be developed into an institution that we could, if we want to put it that way, so that in Guyana, the NARI, in GLDA, and all other agencies within the agriculture sector, it must be like a standing order that there must be proper research and development, so that when we come out, Wayne, to say that we are going to invest in soybean, it must not be that we're talking about soybean and then we're going to study whether in fact we can actually grow, or we can actually produce, or we can, or it is whether it is feasible. We must have well-structured plans. And so from day one, going into government, having placed in any area of responsibility, more so should the president find confidence in me serving in the agriculture ministry, that I will start from day one to put systems and policies and programs in place that will benefit Guyana and see the agricultural sector turn around, and one that will not ensure food security by 2030, but begin to have food security so that all Guyanese can benefit, and then decide and look at the wider region of the Caribbean and in international markets. And so I want to assure Guyanese that with a coalition government in office, we will continue to develop our people-centered development strategy that will not only cater for the needs of Guyanese, but will also ensure that their needs are met and they are properly developed. I will beg of you 1 minute that outside of agriculture, and our young people must understand that our government in waiting has a plan, and we have plans in place that will cater for every need of Guyanese. Young people must understand the struggle for a house lot and a home, the struggle to secure a financial loan and all these things from the bank. It will be a thing of the past because our leader and president to be has decided, and we would have already looked at it and its feasibility, that we will develop what you call a rent-to-own scheme, a rent-to-own within the Ministry of Housing and Water, so that when you acquire a house lot with a house on it, and that you, as you pay for that home or that house, if you want to put it that way, which will make into your home, you pay and you pay until you finish. But when you finish, it becomes yours. You don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to go studying to build. Rent to own. And so it is a policy that will take you out from renting somebody else's place or being in an apartment where you're living in a house. The same money that you take to pay your rent, you pay to the Central Housing and Planning Authority, and then in a matter of years, the house become yours without having to really and truly invest from the beginning millions of dollars. And that is something that young people must take into consideration. Guyanese must look at our people-centered development strategy that we have and the pointers that we have out there, and then they will understand that the coalition government really cares for Guyanese.
That was very, very well put, and I like the rent to own plan, Viceroy, because when you look at houses for sale right now in Guyana, it's not for the normal Joe and Jane. They are not capable of meeting those prices, not even close. And to know that the coalition have a plan. A plan that will fit all 6 ethnic groups across the board, and that's something that I'm looking for. I am looking for a government, you understand me, who have the people at heart. And when I say the people at heart, all 6 ethnic groups. It is definitely not the case with the PPPC. The PPPC doesn't even have people at heart in general. People are off afterthought. All right. I'm looking for a government to come in and say, like Donald Trump does say, let's make America great. Let's make Guyana great. What about Guyana?
Yes.
Guyana exists. Let's make Guyana great again. We have the resources. It is just being mismanaged by a corrupt government.
Friends, families, and favorites.
Correct. A corrupt side of the government. And Vincent, I want to touch on this because it kind of worried me a little when I saw Mr. Norton standing side by side with Jack Dio and India's Prime Minister, the Honorable Modi there. Listen, there is no collaboration between the PPPC side of the aisle and the opposition. They don't collaborate with you guys. The only time they want to collaborate is when they're faced with something like the Venezuela issue where everybody jump on their planes and fly out. Right? That's the only time they want to collaborate because they know for sure they're not educated on that. They're not ready for that. They don't have a solution to Venezuela. They have no vision for a long-term solution to Venezuela, just like how they don't have no vision for a long-term solution to GWI and GPL. I'm sorry we don't have enough time for you to get into GWI a little bit, but you'll have to come back for that. I'm telling you that.
I'm more than willing. More than willing because Sheikh Bash is a mess.
Correct. And the PPP they are visionless, right? They are visionless. So we need a change in Guyana, man. Guyana need a change. I need to see a government who is working for the people of Guyana first and everything else after. you know. So that's what I'm looking for, man. But Vince Roy, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much. This is your debut program here. I thought that you were excellent. I know that the audience enjoy having you. So, you know, we just want to thank you for taking the time to come on this evening.
If you have
any closing remarks, feel free.
Oh yes, well, I would just like to say to Guyanese, we are in a critical and crucial season, a period, and as we go day by day, we are getting closer to general and regional elections. I often say to supporters when I go on the ground, we need to return to that family system, that village system, where when adults speak to younger folks, they can listen and they must understand. And we must return to such a system where a village will take control of the decisions that must be made and the development that must come to them. And the power must lie in not only their voice, but in their vote. And once we do that at the village level, we'll be able to do that at the regional level, and we'll be able to do that nationally. And that is how I believe that we'll be able to conquer the People's Progressive Party Civic. And so I say to us, let us return to that village style and that family mentality of fighting the People's Progressive Party Civic.
Well said, Mr. Jordan. And again, we thank you very much for taking the time to come on. You have a good remainder of the evening, sir.
You too, and to your viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, there you had it, guys. There you had it, Mr. Vince Roy Jordan. And yes, Chanel Smith Daniels, thank you very much. Chanel Smith Daniels would have just assured me, Wayne, you will have Vince Roy back. So, okay, thank you. We'll definitely bring him back. We need to get into GWI, and Vince Roy have a lot of experience with GWI. And we want to tap into that a bit, tap into his experiences. We're gonna do that. I'll try to get him before Christmas, but I didn't do the roll call for today. That's gonna be done shortly. I think we have a few more minutes. So you guys, how you guys feel about the bombshell? You know, the little bombshell that came out this weekend. I didn't know Barry Jagdeo had kids. I don't know how many of you knew that he had kids, but I wanted to say this, that as a public figure, right, I don't feel that there's any need to hide your kids from the public. You're a public figure, so your life has to somewhat be public, right? You're a public figure, so your life has to somewhat be public. All right? Barry Jagdeo came out with his children. Well, the only reason I believe that a public figure would be hiding their children from the public is if they're not performing well. If they're not performing with the public at heart, or performing in the best interest of the public. And in Barry Jagdeo's case, he has been an oppressor from day one. He has been an oppressor from day one. So you coming out and you bringing out your children, you know, I'm not going to stay long on this. I hope with you bringing out your children, you think about all those children in Guyana that's going to bed at night hungry, you know. I know that yours are able to get 4 square meals, right? Because you're rich, you're wealthy. You've gotten rich and wealthy off of the people of Guyana. But it's not going to be a trickle-down effect. Your children are not going to be the leaders of Guyana in the future. So it doesn't matter how much money you amass. It doesn't matter how much money you amass. You got to understand this. The masses is who control the narrative. Okay? The masses. And there is going to be writings. There's many of us here who's going to write articles. You understand me? That future generations will be able to look at. All right? And they would know about your body of work and how your children would have obtained that wealth. Listen, this game, this chess game that we playing, It's not going to play out like that, where you get to oppress people and get rich with blood money. Yes, that's blood money. Extrajudicial killings, corruption, everything else has enriched you. Okay? You cannot show your salaries. Your salaries over the years cannot match your assets. All right? You wouldn't be forthcoming with that. All right? You know, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say this. I believe in order for corruption to really stop in Guyana, we have to get these parliamentarians to start divesting when it comes to their businesses if they want to sit in parliament. You can either divest or you can have a holding intermediary along with family members run your business. When it comes to voting on legislation that is pertinent, that is going to relate to your business, you need to take a pass. We need to start learning how to be a bit fair in Guyana. Right? We are too passive. Look, the leader of the opposition has all right to do what the leader of the opposition has to do. He has a strategy, right? I don't know everything with regards to his strategy, but I'm going to just give you my opinion. The Prime Minister of India, Modi, when he visited Guyana, he would have had to come to Congress Place to meet with me. Or we would have had our own personal meeting. I'm not getting with Moody, Barajagio. I'm not getting there with Moody, Barajagio, because that paints a picture. And the picture that paints is not the correct picture. Okay? We all here know that a PPP does not work with the opposition. We know this. The PPP makes all decisions independently. They're undemocratic. Let me just put it in a capsule. They're undemocratic, unwilling to work with the opposition, does not care for the people that supports the opposition. So I think that, moving forward, and the reason I asked Vince Roy the question, if the elections does not fall the way of the opposition, what's the next steps? Well, if Barry Jagdeo would have said last elections, right, that Guyana would be ungovernable, well, I'll be taking that same position. If you're going to go into elections with that bloated list, and we're going to have elections, and you come out victorious, then Guyana is going to be ungovernable, or we're going to have two Guyanas and two presidents. These are all the things that the PPP has said. When these people are willing to go down in the gutter, you can't act like if you're not willing to go down in the gutter with them. Where does that get you? Where does that get you? You got to go down with them. You have to go down with them. You can't take a high road with the PPP. There's no high road with the PPP. You can't act like you're scared of the PPP. It's because of us behaving like if we're scared of the PPP is what got Guyana where it is today. 23 years of suppression and oppression. While what they do, they build out a whole network of corruption. The PPP has Guyana through and through. The whole skeletal system of Guyana is corrupted by the PPP. It's a massive job for a new government to eradicate that. It's going to take at least 5 years. And with good people, good resources. Because when they run into the corruption and they run into the issues, they have to be forthcoming. They have to be authentic. They have to have integrity. They have to be transparent. $2025 is upon us, man, and it's a critical year. It's a crossroad year for Guyana. That protest out front of GCOM on Tuesday, it needs to get larger. It needs to get much larger. Okay, it needs to get much larger. Carl Miller, thank you for being here. A pleasant good evening. Thank you for joining, and over to you. Flash Gordon, special message to you. I saw earlier in the comments you said Wayne Caesar don't play the commercial with Auntie Data. I don't control the commercials that are played on this program. The producers of on the station, the network, and they control what is played and what is not played. I'm here as the host. I don't control that. Okay? Rosemary Martindale, pleasant good evening. Will Don Cook, Ingrid Worrell, thank you guys for joining. Wanda London, yes. I like one.
Yeah, my name is Jasity Claudet Singh, Vietnam. And since 1965, I become a voter.
Flash, you saw that. I don't control it. I don't control it. Jamal Aziz, my brother from Barbies. Good evening, Jamal. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamal owns a butcher shop. So you're looking to get your pepper pot meat and your stuff for Christmas, please visit Jamal Aziz Butcher Shop. Pleasant good evening also to his wife, Miss Lachman Aziz. Good evening, Audrey Fraser, Janet Elias, my friend. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hey, look, Janet, I like that. I really like that. Calling all the bingo people. Congress Place usually have a large amount of people for the bingo. I think you guys should start heading out there on Tuesday. Hey, look, it is that critical. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that critical. A voters list with 718,000 people. We're not even sure there's 718,000 people in Guyana. And to have a voters list that size, I got to check for family members that would have deceased to me over the years and see if they're still on the list. The PPP is ridiculous. And Claudet Singh, you're a horrendous person. I'm sorry. You're a horrible woman. You're a dictator. You're just like Barry Jagdeo. You're going to retire when you want, when you're doing a disservice to the people of Guyana. Lady, you have some nerve, man. Retire justice. I'll go back and look at all your cases. They need to go back and look at all your cases to make sure that you wasn't biased in those decisions that you made. They need to go back and look at that. Listen, man, we need to start functioning properly in Guyana, man. You see that one-man DPP thing? I despise that one-man DPP thing. The DPP is so biased. They need to go and put legislation, pass legislation to Parliament, man, to have the DPP be a committee of 4 or 5, not one person. The politics in Guyana is crazy. It's ridiculous. It is just ridiculous. Notice the Attorney General, boy, huh? He's been hot. His seat has been getting hot up this week. Not going to go much into it, just going to keep it high level. His seat has been hot this week till he's suing. Okay. He is suing and we still waiting for Barry Jagdeo to sue. He is suing and we're still waiting on Barry Jagdeo to sue. These businesses that are being posted here currently, please support them all. Support them all. Support them all. All right. Support all these businesses that are being posted. All right. If I was down in Guyana, I was going to Club Twilight tonight. That's exactly where I was going. I was going to Andrew Supermarket, Aubrey Barker, and also Rob Street location. That's where I was going and do my shopping. And if you up and around Meadowbrook area and South area, please make sure you visit the Strikers Club. They're having barbecue tonight. They have dominoes and all kind of things over there. You guys support the local businesses, man. Support the local businesses. The revenue is kept in your communities. The revenue is not shipped out to another country. It is kept in your communities. You know, to all of you guys, man, and to, you know, to all the freedom fighters out there, the social media commentators. Miss Desiree Simons, a very, 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 Miss Desiree Simons, a very, very good evening to you. Wendy Emmanuel, good evening to you. Siobhan McDonald, good evening, good evening. Dennis Atwell, I see you, my brother. Brenda Braithwaite, how are you? A pleasant good evening to you. Sandra Hanover, good evening, good evening. Ronier Caesar, yes. My brother, yes, yes. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Carl Miller, yes, I see you, my brother. I see you. So I want to thank everyone for joining tonight. Rosemary Martindale, Ingrid Worrell, Wanda London. Wanda London says she does not believe the opposition is going to win the 2025 elections if Claudet Singh is fair. All right. I feel that it is imperative that Claudet Singh either repivot or resigns. I feel she's being very biased and she's not fit for that position. Chairperson of GCOM is a critical position. You can actually determine elections in a country. And Claudet Singh, you have done so in 2020. And look at the results. Look at what Guyanese are faced with now. Look at what Guyanese are faced with now. So you have to understand that your role is a critical role. And you need to be, look, you're a retired judge, man. You know that you need to be independent in both fact and appearance. I don't have to say this to you. I am not a judge. All right? I should not have to say this to you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Andrea D. Shondell Griffith. Good evening. Floretta Hamilton. Rita Clark. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining. Francine Cruz. A pleasant good evening to you, Miss Cruz. Thank you for joining the program tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. Vilma Adams. Lorraine Beat. Jillian Solomon. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. You guys have done a wonderful job building out this Saturday program. I want to thank you so much. Rajendra D. Knott, thank you for joining. Annette Gordon, thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, the Honorable Chanel Smith-Daniels, thank you, Chanel, for coming on this evening. Appreciate it. Chanel was very instrumental in facilitating getting the Honorable Mr. Vince Roy Jordan here on this program tonight. Again, thank you so much, Chanel. All right, guys, until next weekend, please, Guyanese, stay strong. Hold your heads up. Hold your heads up. Stay strong. This is where we take our leave. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Please, if you're going to be commuting, if you're going to be going out tonight and you had a little too much to drink, have somebody else take the wheel. Condolences to that young electrician that had that lost his life with those two sand trucks, where the one sand truck pinned him. Condolences to that family. That should not have happened. I know everybody's fighting to make a dollar in Guyana, but guys on the road, let's slow down, man. Slow it down. You can't put passengers and pedestrians at risk. Let's slow it down, ladies and gentlemen, on the road. All those who are going to church tomorrow, have a good church day. Those who are not going to church, still have a pleasant Sunday. Until next weekend, I love you guys so much.
Yeah, my name is Jasnity Claudet Singh, and since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by that.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.